Hello and welcome back.
Welcome back.
And today I want to know from you why we do need an architect at all. So, where is my advantage hiring an architect when I'm looking at an extension and at a loft conversion, and I probably don't need a permission for that. That's most of the time. Like you try to save costs where you can.
Yes.
So tell me an advantage of an
Yes.
architect for
Yeah.
me that makes me not think twice that I need one.
Okay. The simple way of putting it is what you're saying that if you want to do the project under the permitted development, so that means you don't need to submit an application to the council to get your a legalized permission for the work you're doing, and you know in back of your head that you know what the space will look like. You know where the open plan family space will be, where you're gonna put the kitchen, where you're gonna do this, that, and that. Okay. Where we come in, okay, we ask you all of these questions that you know what you're going to be doing. And when we are asking these questions, we are always trying to pick up the points in terms of like number of kids in the house, what is their ages, what kind of work you do, what kind of work your spouse does, what type of a lifestyle you live in. Do you invite friends to the house? You're doing some parties at home. You do barbecue. We're picking up all of those things when we when we are with the client, and then we create a picture to understand that how the client is actually living and breathing in that space. And with that conversation, we come up with what the current use is right now without any extension or loft conversion, what the client is looking to achieve, what are the things the client has actually said to me without realizing they're giving me all of that information. So when we actually design something, we take all of those things under the consideration.
Okay.
Yeah. But when somebody wants to do it themselves, okay, they are not short-sighted. They do not have that experience of analyzing all of that information, doing the data analysis, and coming up with a proposal which can fulfill their needs for today, tomorrow, and in the future as well. And that's where the people get it wrong, is they get short-sighted. They do what they think is right to do it now. They don't look at how it's going to react and do it in the future, and then I go like, oh, looks like I've done a mistake. How can I change that? And the change is very, very costly. So answer to your question, where we come in is to understand all of those things and give you a clear picture saying what you can use now, tomorrow, and in the future. That has a much, much greater value to a project.
Okay. Fair enough. Um, most of the time, people know somebody who knows somebody
Yes.
who is in the property industry
Yes.
and might be an interior designer, or might be sometimes we spoke about earlier as well, about a professional organizer or builder or plumber, whatever. So when it comes to the designs, where where do you draw the line between um, an architectural designer and an interior designer? The reason why I'm asking this is the following. When you, for example, think about kitchens, you might have a wall that should be replaced or not replaced.
Yeah.
So who makes this decision about like walls they're not needed for the structure? Like where you have like, you know, where's the overlap when you talk to an interior designer and an architectural designer, for example?
Yeah.
When is an interior designer enough because you don't need any permissions or things?
Yeah.
Like where do you draw the line?
Interior designer do play a very major role into an extension or anything, because this is where you actually feel comfortable in that space, that color of the walls, choose of the carpet colors, and flooring and everything else and stuff. Okay. But the space awareness and space uses is that's where we come in. So answering your question is, there are three people you need for the project. One is an architect who can possibly design that space for you. Second thing is you need an interior person to make sure how the space actually feels and things. And your structure you talked about is a structure engineer to make sure the building, what we're designing, or walls we are taking out, can be held properly. So you need a structure engineer for that. They all three have a very different role. Yeah. So structure engineer will make sure the building is not going to collapse once it's done. Okay. We're going to make sure that, person or people who are living and breathing in that space can flow around the space much properly, even if it's a kitchen, living room, dining room. So make sure all of those things are connected, and they are not just not connected without any thought process behind it. They're connected properly. So the location of where the dining table will go, okay, is critical. But what kind of dining table will go, possibly interior designer will actually sort that out. But I'm just saying a dining table needs to go in that direction, because how a client has explained me the spaces they want to use, it needs to be there. But what type of dining table they will use, that completely up to the client and the interior designer to suit, select. Similar thing when we do in the kitchen design as well. We are just showing the kitchen will go into this direction, sink can go there, cooker can go there, fish freezer can go there. But again, they take that information and give it to a kitchen designer, where they go into the more details, saying exactly how these things will look like, the colors, the handles, and this, that. We're not part of that, because that's more of an interior, and the kitchen package comes in. And that's personally to the client as well, that what colors and things they like. But the space where how you're going to be, how that kitchen is going to be interacting with the living room and the dining room and the utility and all of that needs to be designed by us. Hopefully I gave you the picture that what are the clear.
So if you're on a budget, who is the person I can cut out the fastest and who I can't continue with?
Okay.
Without, sorry.
Okay. Interior designer will hate me saying that, but I would say interior designer, because I can see where their value is. Okay. But for maybe a smaller residential project, people don't need to have an interior designer. Okay. I'll still recommend you to speak to somebody and have some guidance. But I would say that if you want to know what color of wall you would like to have, because you can paint the wall pink today. If you don't like it, you can paint the wall any other color tomorrow. If you have the budget to have an interior designer on board, he can come and do the right color for you. And possibly I can give you a very great example, which is for my house. When we did our extension in the house, we didn't know what to do, so we just gone and painted all the walls the color what we thought is right. And then 6 months later, when we lived in the space, and then we saw the sofa coming in and so, then we actually did get an interior designer who actually chose the right wallpaper and the other colors which we need, and we added those things later on. So we did not do it at this part of that project at that time, but we did it 6 months later. So answer to the question is, I think interior designer, you can possibly park that when the construction work is happening, but you need a structural engineer making sure it your house is stable. Okay. And you need an architect to make sure the design is done properly. Once it's done, you can't change it after that. But the wall colors you can.
Is a structural engineer always needed, no matter what?
99.9% yes. Okay. The reason I'm saying that is every extension, every loft conversion will require some sort of a structural alteration to the house. Okay. The moment there's a structural alteration to the house happening, you need a structural engineer.
And why would I not go first to a structural engineer, but to an design architect?
Yeah, because structural engineer is simply going to ask you, what do you want me to design? So they usually rely on the information we provide them to show an existing floor plan, a proposed floor plan, what the client is looking to achieve. Okay, and you need to design a steel which goes from here to here. What will be the calculation of that steel is. But if you do not have that information, the structural engineer will be asking you, what do you want me to do? And then the whole responsibility goes to the client to explain what you're trying to do. And without having a drawing in front of you, it's impossible for an engineer or anybody else to understand what they're looking to do. They will try to gauge it, but why you want to do that?
So you're basically the translator for your clients who know how they want to feel and how they want to live. And you can translate that for an engineer to make
Yeah.
it happen, basically, and how the house has to be in order to make this feeling and this emotion come true.
Yeah. So I'm a translator, whatever is happening in the client's life or circumstances they're in, why they need that space, and understanding all that thing, doing the data analysis of that, and then putting something on a piece of paper, which we can show to the client. Mr. Client, this is what your space will actually look like. Can you visualize yourself in it? Okay. Lots of people are visual to understand. They can close their eyes and visualize that space. Most people can't. So every project we do is in 3D anyway. So we can actually show that to the client. So look, space will actually look like this. Okay, and they understand.
Okay, we talked about as well today about loft conversions. And can you think about a scenario where the couple sitting on a dining table thinking about loft conversions and what they have to do? Can you think about a scenario where they don't need particularly an architect to help them out?
Yes, if you're not doing a dormer conversion, the location of the staircase is very simple, where you're not compromising any room, and you are able to achieve the 2 meter clearance, which we were talking about when you're going from the ground floor when we're going up. Okay, if you can achieve the 2 meter clear headroom, if you going with the loft conversion companies who specialize quite a lot of those in, okay, they will know about these regulations. So, and there is no design needs to be done into it, because you are actually within the existing volume. Okay, that's where I would say, you don't need an architect to design that for you.
Okay. And like, if they don't have a architect to design everything and they go with a loft conversion specialized building
Yes.
company,
Yeah. Yeah.
what do you think this person who is responsible for the project should be able to focus on? Like, what are the skills they need um, to make this happen without an architect?
Yeah, they still need the building regulation. They don't need somebody to design it for them, because what they're actually achieving is a square room, rectangular room, whatever that is. Okay, but making sure the company you're using, has the ability to provide you all the right documentation, which is your building control certificate. A structural engineer might still be required, okay, because you need to strengthen the floor up. Okay, building regulation is definitely required, because you are going to be using that for a habitable space. And the building regulation again is for the 2 meter clear headrooms and things like that. So making sure you choose a company who know what they're doing and will be actually following all of these processes for you. What you don't want to do is to get the loft conversion done, they get paid, and you don't have the right documentation.
Okay. Coming back to the costs and the budget, people think like obviously everybody wants to save money
Yeah.
and it's all about like, the profit is in the purchase. You can't afford to do it without an architect in most cases.
Mm-hmm.
Where would you say a person or an individual who wants to do a loft conversion can cut some costs?
Mm,
Interior designer we had already, so this is not counting.
yeah. Not really. I think if your loft size is big enough not to having a dormer conversion, which gives you the most volume, is possibly the only thing where you can see, and if you can look to do that, into that in a budget way. That's the only thing I could think. But again, you need the regulation, you need the clear headrooms and thing. That there's no get away with that.
It's basically the quality on the things you put into um,
Yes. Yeah.
the stairs,
Yeah.
floor, ceiling.
Yes, quality possibly yes, but the staircase does need to meet the regulation. It needs to have the correct sizes of the tread and the risers and all of those things and stuff. So the staircase itself, this part K regulation for staircase, it needs to fall into that.
Okay.
So you can't just say I'm going to have a very steep staircase, because I don't want somebody to design it.
Where do you see people losing value throughout this process without even they are really realizing it?
Oh, when they think I know what I'm doing is right, and once they are actually halfway through the project, and then they started having a conversation with friends and builders and friends will start designing it for them. And I've seen that. And I've seen that
What's
many,
going
many
wrong? Do
times.
you have an example?
Yeah, because everybody will be able to explain or everybody will be able to give you suggestion based on their experience or what they feel like is right. Okay, nobody will listen to you that how you want to use it. They will all, if you going to speak to your friend tomorrow and ask him saying, I'm looking to do an extension, what do you think? He's never going to ask you a single question that what do you want to use it for. He will tell you what is right for him, but he will actually do the design for you, which is not right.
That's
Yeah,
true.
imagine going to a restaurant and I'm selecting your food and forcing you to eat it.
There are some situations like this happens,
Yeah,
yeah.
and you'll be like, I don't like this food, no, but this is so good, you should be having it. And we're like, no, I don't. So our role is very, very important when it comes to designing and understanding what you actually need.
And where is your role starting and where is it ending in this scenario of loft conversion, for example?
Yeah, so loft conversion, we will hold your hand from start. So in terms of finding it, doing the feasibility, that is it possible to do it or not. So we'll come and do all the due diligence check that, to making sure what you're looking to is achievable. Once it's achievable, we'll do the design, we'll submit them to the council. Even if it requires a planning permission or it can be done on the permitted development, we'll follow that process through. Then we get an engineer on board who'll do the structural design for you. Then we convert the drawing from there to the construction drawings. We'll get the construction drawing approved, which is the building regs drawings. We'll get them approved by the local authority or private building control. Once they approved, we can tender it out to the contractors. If you want us, we can actually liaise with the contractors, and when they get the prices, we can do the tender packages to understand, who's quoting for what. And then even we can actually help to manage the project on site as well, and doing an active role as a principal designer on site to signing off any changes happening during the construction, because when you dig down, you don't know what you're going to find out. Okay, so when you're digging down, you're going in the loft and you find like, oh, we found this thing which needs a resolution for, so we'll make sure they consult it to us. Conversation goes to the building control, goes to the structural engineer, and a decision is being made formally to understand what was the problem, how did we resolve it, so we can do all that.
So when we round it up, before you start a loft conversion, most of the time you need an architect.
Yes.
So having the picture in mind again with the couple who is sitting dining together, and as they come up with an extension, the first thing what they do is calling Vishal Verma from New Concepts, correct?
Absolutely. They should.